Uh, okay, good morning. We are having our seminar on carcinoma colon today. Dr. Ujjwal Bhattacharya, who is professor and head of surgery at Calcutta National Medical College, will moderate this session. So I would ask the first speaker, Dr. Ganesh Guru, to speak on etiopathogenesis of carcinoma colon. Dr. Guru, please.
Good morning, sir. Carcinoma colon pathogenesis. Carcinoma colon, most common in the western part of the world compared to the eastern countries due to their sedentary lifestyle and dietary habits. Western people are more prone to constipation, which is a leading cause of carcinoma colon. In India, most common in northern India, can occur in sporadic, inherited, and familial forms. Morphological types of carcinoma colon: ulcerative, annular, tubular, exophytic. Ulcerative is the most common variety. Ulcerative, annular, and tubular are most common in the left-sided colon. Exophytic or coliferous growth is more common in the right side of the colon, attributed to the larger diameter of the right side of colon. Risk factors: this is mainly due to the exposure of colon to the fecal toxins and carcinogenic agents, which is responsible for this metachronous and synchronous cancers. Important risk factors are smoking, increased animal protein, especially red meat, saturated fat, alcohol consumption, obesity and sedentary lifestyle, high caloric diet, low fiber diet. All these factors leads to increased colon transit time and reduced colon transit, leading to the prolonged exposure of fecal toxins to the colon, radiation exposure, electrosigmoidectomy, inflammatory bowel disease, and syndromes like FAP, HNPCC. In ulcerative colitis, carcinoma starts on the flat epithelial cells. In other diseases, it's usually a polyp from which the carcinoma arises. In FAP, it is more of left-sided, and HNPCC is of right-sided. Protective factors: high fiber diet, antioxidants, NSAIDs, aspirin and coffee, high calcium, magnesium bisphosphates. This calcium, magnesium bisphosphates binds with the fecal toxins and reduces the exposure of colon to the fecal mantle. High fiber diet increases the colon transit. Colorectal cancer genetics. Genetics of colorectal carcinoma can be explained by three pathways: chromosomal instability pathway, cytosine phosphodiester bond guanine pathway, microsatellite instability pathway. Chromosomal instability pathway. In a normal cell, the 7 transmembrane receptor WNT signal is inactivated state. This causes the APC gene, which is the tumor suppressor gene, to produce beta catenin, and hence the tumor cells are not proliferating. When this WNT signal was turned on, it binds to the APC gene, which in turn leads to inactivation of APC genes, increased beta catenin within the cell. This is the tumor initiation event, the proliferation of tumor cells. The most important gene responsible for this is APC gene located in chromosome 5. In FAP, tumor initiation is accelerated. CpG island methylator phenotype pathway, hypermethylation of gene promoters, which in turn causes the conversion of open chromatin to closed chromatin, which silences genetic expressions, that is the loss of function mutation or arrest of tumor suppression. This leads to progression of tumor cells. These factors are responsible for conversion of early adenoma to late adenoma. The genes responsible are KRAS and chromosome 12, deleted in colon carcinoma in chromosome 18, P53, which is the universal carcinogenic gene located on chromosome 17. Microsatellite instability. This is mainly due to mismatch repair genes mutation. Mismatch repair genes are those genes which help in the base excision repairs. When these genes get mutated, there is a microsatellite instability, which leads to the error in S phase. So there is a proliferation of abnormal cells. The genes responsible are MLH1, MSH2, MSH6, and PMS2, appear in the genes chromosome 2, 3, 7 correspondingly. Ferran-Vogelstein sequence, that is adenoma carcinoma sequence. This explains the basis of this chart explains the genetic mechanisms. Like normal colonic epithelium, the first it is the APC gene mutation, which leads to the aberrant crypt formation, which is the first phenotypic change. This change is accelerating FAP. From there, it is followed by early adenoma, intermediate, late adenomas due to several mutation leads like KRAS, BCC, P53. The final it is always P53. Polyps are the pre-malignant conditions, and the types of polyps are amatomas, hyperplastic, adenomatous, inflammatory polyp. Amatomas, hyperplastic polyp is the most common polyp. The malignant potential of hyperplastic polyp is around 1 to 2%. Amatomas polyp are malignant potential less than 1%. Important syndromes associated with amatomas polyps are juvenile polyposis syndrome, Cowden syndrome, Panay and dual cover syndrome, Kronecker-Canada syndrome. Adenomatous polyp having the most malignant potential. So whenever adenomatous polyp is found, it should be excised. And the varieties of adenomatous polyps are tubular, tubular-villous, and villous bar sessile. Tubular has a 5% potential of malignancies. Tubular-villous 10 to 20%. Villous is 40% risk. FAP syndrome, the most important syndrome associated with colorectal carcinoma. It is a second important genetic syndrome associated with colorectal carcinoma. It is a APC gene mutation, autosomal mode of dominant mode of inheritance, 100% penetrance rate. Classical FAP, there is a mutation in the codon between 1250 and 150, characterized by more than 100 polyps. In attenuated FAP, there is a alteration in the codon either from 5-N to 1250 or 1464 to 3-N. It is characterized by less than 100 polyps, but more aggressive kind of desmoid tumors. FAP kind of symptoms along the brain tumor, especially medulloblastoma, constitutes Turcot syndrome. Turcot is an autosomal recessive mode of inheritance. FAP along with congenital hypertrophy of retinoid pigmental epithelium, multiple sebaceous, multiple exhaustosis, and desmoid tumors constitute of Gardner syndrome. HNPCC is the most common cause of familial cancers, inherited cancers. It is of two types, Lynch 1 and Lynch 2. HNPCC is mainly due to microcyclic instability due to mismatched repair gene mutation. Autosomal mode of dominant of inheritance. In HNPCC, tumor progression is accelerated, 80% penetrance rate. Lynch 1 and Lynch 2. Lynch 1 is characterized by colorectal carcinoma. Lynch 2 is colorectal endometrial small bowel plus renal pelvic carcinoma.
I thought you would have touched little about the pathological part also. That means when you go to pathogenesis, there are different histological variants. The commonest serial variant is what? Adenocarcinoma. Dr. Bhattacharya, we can have 5 minutes.
Yes, you have been very descriptive regarding the pathogenesis. I understand. So regarding the etiology, could you have been somewhat more elaborative? So what about the inflammatory bowel syndrome? What about how carcinoma becomes more frequent in inflammatory bowel syndrome? So something regarding that I wanted to know. And secondly, can you tell me just in short what do you understand by the adenocarcinoma sequence? You have already described that, but just I want to have some points regarding that. Yes, tell me.
Sir, before carcinomas arising, there should be a event of adenoma to carcinoma. That means like it takes a long time for the CA carcinoma to establish. The initial, it must be in a very early.
Yes.
Adenoma first.
Basically, yes.
So
Hello.
So the adenoma gets maturity from early to late. It goes stage by stage, and different age contributes to this one. Not a single, it is a multi.
Yes, that is basically an accumulation of genetic alterations, right? Accumulation. So not a single or particular gene is responsible. It is basically an accumulation of changes in the various genes. Yes, go on. Hello.
Sir. So if you have diagnosed a patient in a type of in the early adenomas and intermediate adenomas, we can do prophylactic surgeries, so we can prevent carcinoma things, and regular screening would help in managing the patients.
Now I want to have a second question regarding this. Can you tell me what are the typical characteristics of HNPCC cancers?
Sir, HNPCC cancers are more towards
clinical characteristics. Clinical characteristics. Yes.
Sir, there are more of synchronous and metachronous varieties, and then they occur in the very early age. Like less than 50 years, the criteria are like a modified Amsterdam's criteria, and everything is to diagnose the
What
patient.
is that? What is that? What do you understand by that? Yes. Diagnosing a case of HNPCC by its occurrence.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Less than 50 years of age in the index case. HNPC associated cancers less than 50 years, like colorectal. More than 2 members of the 3 members of the same family affected.
Yes.
2 first generation relatives are the father and sibling kind of.
2 generations should be affected.
So spread over 2 generations. Spread
And
over 2
other
generations.
lateral malignancies are? Stomach,
Yes. What are the
small
other,
bowel,
other HNPCC related cancers?
endometrial,
Endometrial.
then renal pelvis,
Renal pelvis.
ureter, and
Okay.
it's more on the right colon.
Yes, that is another important part. HNPCC cancers are more common on the right side. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So can we pass on to the second speaker now?
Yeah. Dr. RM Jyoti will speak on presentation and investigations for carcinoma colon. We'll include the pathology part also. Staging and other.
Staging,
Staging too. Investigation. Management. Investigation will be there.
Good morning, sir. Today I am dealing with topic clinical features and investigations of carcinoma colon. Usually, carcinoma colon usually occurs in the age of 50 and more common in the 8th degree. The symptoms are usually subtle and non-specific. Patients are usually have weight cramping and abdominal pain, discomfort or bloating sensation, altered bowel habits, bleeding per rectum and melena, mass per abdomen, weakness and tiredness, anemia, and intentional weight loss. And depending on the pathology related to tumor size, type, and location, the symptoms will vary. The tumor is in the left side of the colon, which is having less diameter, and the stool consistency of solid fluid. And more common pathologies like this angular or tubular variant. There is more of change in bowel habit, which means there is an increase in constipation and accumulation of stool behind that, and increased secretion of mucus in the stool, and there will be bleeding per rectum. In the sometimes mass per abdomen will be present, and the aching pain or crampy pain will be present to relieve the obstruction. In the proximal colon, lesions are usually present later with the anemia. Bleeding per rectum will be there, which patient won't recognize as and mass per abdomen will be there, or weight sometimes like pain abdomen. Patients on the flexures may present with weight abdominal for many months. Carcinoma seeking may mimic appendicitis are present as obstruction due to insufficiency. The colon lesions may sometimes mimic as a diverticulitis. Emergency occurs in 20% of the cases. After the investigations of colon cancer, after history and proper clinical examination, family history, or historical examination, following investigation, ultrasound, CT scan, colonoscopy, and biopsy, double contrast benign carcinoma embryonic antigen. Screening test, it's fecal occult blood test. It's a guaiac-based test which detects parasites at activity of fecal hematine. It is less sensitive because early cancers will bleed lately. Fecal immunochemical test use antibodies to detect globin protein hemoglobin in the stool. Coming to the enema, it's a double contrast variant enema. We can see the fixed feeding defects with the dissection of mucosal fiber in the annular contraction. It is less commonly used because when we can miss some polyp lesions or cancerous lesions, and we cannot take the biopsy lesions. So, because of invention of colonoscopy and CT scan, it is less commonly preferred. Coming to endoscopy, flexible endoscopy, it is increasingly be used in one-stop rectal bleeding clinics. Can examine bowel up to splenic infection, but it misses the proximal lesions. Usually using connection fecal blood test in screening. Less chance of perforation, it is 1 in 1,000 cases. Coming to the colonoscopy, it is the gold standard for detection of carcinoma colon, along with the biopsy. Advantage, it can detect synchronous polyps, other elements, and you can take the biopsy. Limitations is there is difficulty in accessing the snake flexion, hepatic flexion, and small risk of perforation is 1 in 1,000 cases. Proper mechanical bowel position is needed to know the all lesions and to examine properly the entire colon. The picture is showing normal colon and colonic cancers and atypical tubular adenoma in the colon and exophytic growth in the colon. Coming to radiology, computed tomography scan. CT scan is used in the TNM staging of the cancer. Tumor cells is the depth of invasion of the tumor. More accurate for T4 lesions than T3 lesions. We can see the thickening of the bowel wall. It also has the extraluminal extent of the tumor and lymph node staging and metastasis of peritoneum, omental, abdomen, pelvis, and lung. Limitation is can't get pericollic lymph nodes which are less than 1 centimeter, liver mets less than 1 centimeter. Overall accuracy in staging primary 70% and sensitive lymph node detection is 45%. The picture showing the transverse colon growth and the type of growth. Coming to virtual colonoscopy, it's a thin section helical CT, which is extremely sensitive lymph node of polyps down the size of 6 mm. Advantage is less invasive than colonoscopy. It can be used, but if biopsy is needed, one has to go for the colonoscopy. This air is inflated into the bowel and the CT scan is taken, showing the colonic part. Onto the epilepsy, it's an extent of clinical examination in palpable abdominal masses. One can detect the liver mets, peritoneal, mental, and cerebral. MRI is not superior to CT. Coming to the tumor counter carcinoma and cancer, no role in the diagnosis of colon cancer, but the CA level can correlate with the tumor burden and prognosis. It's a monitoring tool for patients which are treated with the curative intent. Normal value is 2.5 nanogram per mm. Significant is more than 5 nanogram per mm. Coming to the staging of the tumors, TNM is 8 classification. TX is primary tumor, can't be assessed. T0 is no trace of primary tumor. TIS carcinoma in situ, that is intraepithelial or invasion of lamina propria. T1 is invasive submucosa. T2 muscular is propria. T3 is invasive muscular propria to pericolorectal tissues. With these 4A and 4B, that is penetrates the surface of visual peritoneum. T4B is directly invades or adhered to adjacent nerves. Coming to visual lymph nodes can be accessed NS, N0 no lymph nodes. N1 is metastasis 1 to 3 lymph nodes. In N1C, there is no lymph node metastasis, but tumor deposits are there in subserosa, mesentery, and non-peritoneal, pericolica, perianal tissues. N2 is metastasis 4 or more lymph nodes. N0 is no metastasis, N1 is distant metastasis present. This is stage showing the staging of the colorectal cancer. Stage 0 is confined to the carcinoma in situ stage. Stage 1 is confined to the mucosa and muscular propria. Stage 2 is invasive bowel wall. Stage 3 is lymph node metastasis. Stage 4 is spreading to other organs, distant metastasis. But the modified Duke staging, which is as per called modification of colorectal cancer. In this, A is confined to submucosa, and B is not through the bowel wall with and C is with lymph node metastasis, and D is a distant metastasis. It influences 5 years survival and prognosis of the patient. Thank you.
In investigation, there are some role for genetic studies also.
Yes. KRAS,
Yes.
KRAS, BRAF
KRAS, microbial instability. So these genetic, Dr. Bhattacharya, please.
I want to have one question for you. This is basically an undergraduate question. It is often said that the symptoms related to the right colon cancer differ from the symptoms related to the left colon cancer. So basically, what are the causes behind these differences? Symptoms of right colon cancer differ from the symptoms of the left colon cancer.
The content of the bowel, usual and right side is a liquid type, and when coming to the left side, it is more of a solid consistency, and the
Yes.
and the bowel diameter also is narrow in the left side.
Bowel diameter, yes.
And the type of the growth also. I mean,
type of the growth, yes. On the left side, it is more stenotic, rather than on the right side, which is basically a proliferative tissue, basically, rather than a stenotic infiltrating type. Okay, very good. Now, second question, can you tell me regarding virtual colonoscopy, what are the pros and cons of virtual colonoscopy? You have stated that, yes.
So virtual colonoscopy is less invasive than colonoscopy, but if we need biopsy of the lesion, it can't be possible, sir. But then you have to go for colonoscopy.
How is this virtual colonoscopy done?
A is inflated into the bowel, and then helical CT is taken.
Yes, so it is basically a reconstruction. In virtual colonoscopy, you take serial MR or CT cards, and from these CT cards, you just subtract the other parts and get an interior view of the colon. So, but this is it's not less invasive. There is no invasion. It's just a conventional CT MR being done, and then from there you can do a reconstruction. Problem is you just cannot have chirurgical intervention, but otherwise a very good modality of investigation. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And again, you
Can
talk of, yeah. Yes, Dr. Kochhar.
now, regarding again virtual colonoscopy, can you tell me some situations where it can lead to a false positive diagnosis, or in some situations where it can lead to a false negative diagnosis?
Sir,
Doctor, you can pick up.
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Kochhar. What is the answer?
Yeah. So sometimes if it is an inspissated stool, it can lead to a false positive diagnosis sometimes. Or when it is basically a very flat lesion, you can have a false negative diagnosis in virtual colonoscopy. Okay. Thank you.
And you have mentioned about the right colon. You see, the right colon carcinoma may present in different ways.
Yes.
It can be starting with just vague symptoms, just discomfort in the lower abdomen. Second is 3A, as he described in carcinoma stomach,
Yes.
anemia. Here the patient who can often present with a lump. And you have not talked that this carcinoma colon patient may also present with distant metastasis, like ascites, patient having jaundice, patient having distension. So it can be a situation that patient is in the advanced disease also. But the contrasting the right chronic carcinoma and left chronic carcinoma diagnosed more earlier than right chronic carcinomas because of early alteration of bowel habit. Okay. Okay. Then we can pass on to management
speaker,
of
yes.
carcinoma colon by Dr. Suman Pal.
Good morning, sir. My topic is carcinoma colon management. It's a vast topic, so I will be first talking about what are the treatment tools available. We have surgery, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, and targeted chemotherapy. Now, coming with the surgery first, what is the objective of surgery? A curative resection by removing the cancerous segment of the colon, the mesentery with the primary feeding vessel, and the lymphatics, and any organ with direct tumor involved. Now, the principles. Basically, the length of the bowel and the mesentery we resect out, it will depend on the distribution of the primary arm. And by basically, it's a carcinomatous growth, so we will go for a radical resection. Considering the margins to say, we will take 5 centimeter margin. And some tumors develop in the border zones. So in that case, we will take care of all the lymphatics, neighboring lymphatics also, that we have to take out altogether. And sometimes it is found that not only due to inflammation on, sometimes carcinomatous growth itself makes the mass adhere to nearby organs. And in that condition, we have to remove all those nearby organs whenever feasible. Now, few notes on these that if it is a synchronous cancer, then extended resection or total colectomy with anastomosis, limited weight for unfit patients who are not, who cannot take the major operations, then we go for palliative resection or limited weight resection. And as far as the oncologic resection is concerned, we will excise all the nodes like epicolic, paracolic, intermediate, and everything all together. Now, the notes on technique of it. As per the surgery, every major surgery, in every major. Hello.
It will reconnect, no?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah. So there's some interruption. Yes. Can you share screen? Is it visible, Dr. Bhattacharya?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Sorry for the inconvenience, sir. Starting with the techniques, it starts with the position. Every operation starts with position, and positioning plays a vital role in case of operations. So in this case, whenever we are approaching the abdomen, supine position is preferable always. But sometimes when we are considering a left-sided pulmonary mass, modified lithotomy position can help us. Now, as far as the incisions is concerned, midline laparotomy generally, when we approach for the laparotomy, midline laparotomy incision is generally given midline long incisions. But if it is proximal one, proximal tumor, we can go for a short but higher midline incision also. And it has been seen that transverse subcostal incision can also be tried if specifically right-sided mass is there and we are planning for a right-sided hemicolectomy, then transverse subcostal incision will help. And as far as the laparoscopy, not only the open procedure, laparoscopy procedure can also be tried, and in that condition, the ports are tried in such a way, arranged in such a way, in such a fashion that they form along a circle, along the perimeter of a circle where the target organ remains at the center of. Now, after entering into the abdomen, the first thing in these conditions we go for exploration of the abdomen so that we don't miss out anything. We check out for the distant mates, we check out the peritoneal carcinomatosis and the organs that may remain attached to the mass itself. After exploring all this, we go for resection of the mass in terms of colonic resection. Now, there are various types of surgical resection. If the tumor location is in situ, we go for right-sided hemicolectomy, where keeping the 5 centimeter margin, we consider the major blood vessel, colic artery, right branch. The terminal IEM to mid-transverse colon, right flexor is included in our resection. Now, when the mass is in the ascending colon, right hemicolectomy is done, where the major blood vessel is colic artery, right branch of the mid-colic artery, which are lineage and card at their origins, with a safety margin of 5 centimeter. Terminal IEM to mid-transverse colon and right flexor is also included. Same as hepatic flexor. Hepatic flexor and the splenic flexor, those border zones where we go for extended right hemicolectomy or splenic flexor, extended left hemicolectomy. And when the mass is in the transverse colon, extended right hemicolectomy, we go for that. Now, some technical considerations, like not only open procedure, laparoscopy is also tried in these conditions. But as far as the oncologic outcome and the survival of the patient is concerned, it has been found in many studies that laparotomy versus laparoscopy doesn't make too much difference. But sometimes morbidity gets a little bit decreased in cases of laparoscopy wherever tried. But sometimes, from the perspective of the surgeons, it has been found that tactile sensation plays a vital role for some surgeons, and in that cases, surgeons prefer some hand-assisted laparoscopic surgery, they term it as, where they, with the laparoscopic surgery, also opens up the abdomen and with hand assist, with hand also they does the dissection and takes out the mass when they find the mass is totally accurate, which all the surgery is very difficult to carry out laparoscopically. Fluorescent image guided surgery, another helpful tool which helps the surgeons to detect any to prevent any iatrogenic injury, which is most commonly found in these conditions. And near infrared laparoscopy with indocyanine green, which helps to assess the perfusion of the bowel, which helps while doing anastomosis, re-anastomosis, it helps to consider whether the part of the bowel is healthy or not. Now, coming to some spatial notes regarding the tumor itself. The tumor can present as obstruction, it can lead to a perforation, or it can present with bleeding usually. Now, as far as the obstruction is concerned, those patients generally tried with video proctoscopy first. They are detected where the mass is, and water soluble contrast enema helps us to detect the position of the obstruction. If we find that there is a proximal kind of obstruction, then primary enterocolonic anastomosis can be tried for those patients after resection. If we find that there is a left-sided colonic mass, then any one of these, that is subtotal colectomy or an on-table lavage with segmental colon resection, intraoperative colonoscopy, and primary anastomosis, or a 2 or 3 stage procedure like where we first exteriorize the gut, and after then we go again re-laparatomy the case and enter, and again re-anastomose the case. Now, sometimes the tumor itself presents with perforation. It may be due to the presence of the tumor transmural, which can perforate, or due to the presence of the tumor leading to an obstruction, which causes the proximal bowel perforation. And in these conditions, all these cases are considered as a stage 4 tumor. Here, we go for the resection, we enter the abdomen, but before that, we resuscitate the patient and accordingly we proceed. Not only that, we also find that sometimes in that case, bleeding may occur where we have to take care of the bleeding. If lower GA, consider it as a lower GA bleeding, and accordingly we investigate and go for the surgery itself, whichever required. Now, coming to that again, where I was talking about the books on the techniques. With this, all the colony sections and the peaks and peaks of the surgery. I will talk about the reconstruction and diversion that is also found that we have to do by doing the surgery. So where we will go for the reconstruction, where we will go for the diversion. It totally depends on the condition of the bowel itself. If we are thinking about re-anastomosis, that is, in that case, we need some prerequisites. Whether the bowel is healthy or not, the part we are resecting out, after that, the left out part is well vascularized or not, and the patient's status, good nutritional status is there or not, generally at the level greater than 3 by and lastly, the presence of drain. It is basically a surgeon's preference, but it has been found when we are doing pelvic dissections basically, where there is a chance of huge collection in the abdomen. In that case, drain plays a vital role. Otherwise, placement of drain can add to morbidity more than that. Now, coming to the other modalities, the chemotherapy itself, the main mortality in these colony carcinomas is microscopic metastasis. We go in, we cut the mass out, but still the patient dies afterwards. The reason is microscopic metastasis, and after that, the scientists tried and they developed many drugs like fluorouracil, leucovorin, and newer drugs like irinotecan and azithromycin helps us in these conditions where after the surgery we add all these drugs as adjuvant chemotherapy, which helps in survival, and it has been seen that it stops the recurrence and it improves the long-term survival of the patient. Such as in stage 3 colon carcinoma, used for 3 months the fluorouracil and leucovorin, and it has shown that there is a decreased recurrence and improved long-term survival. And newer drugs combinations are also used, like Folfox and Capiox. In Folfox, oxaliplatin is used all together with irinotecan or leucovorin, where it used in stage 3 resected tumors. Significant lower rates of nausea and vomiting has been found, and diarrhea, febrile neutropenia, what generally found in chemotherapy treatment. And Capiox, which is capecitabine with oxaliplatin in combination. Now, next is radiotherapy. Radiotherapy is generally done where there is incomplete excision or residual disease. Positive resection, margin is there. After resection, we find margin is also infiltrated, or there is a fixed tumor and tumors associated with perforation, obstruction, fistula, or abscess. Now, lastly, the targeted therapy in advanced colon carcinoma, it has become the newer modality where VEGF and EGF, that is vascular endothelial growth factor, is a blocker agent is bevacizumab, and EGFR, that is cetuximab. Both are very effective drugs which are nowadays used. Now, the staging system has been dealt with by my previous speaker. I will be coming to the guideline test. How treatment basically it can be done following the guidelines. The non-metastatic tumor and metastatic tumor. The non-metastatic tumor, it can be resectable, non-obstructive one, can be resectable but an obstructive one, and bulky nodal disease or clinically deformity disease, or locally unresectable or medically inoperable one. So resectable non-obstructive, where we can go for colectomy in block removal of the regional lymph nodes. Resectable obstructive, where we go for one stage colectomy in block removal or resection with diversion. Now, bulky nodal disease or clinically deformity disease, where we will go for Folfox or Capios first, that is a neoadjuvant chemotherapy, and then we go for one stage colectomy with block removal of the regional lymph nodes. And locally unresectable one, there we try chemotherapy with radiotherapy first, then we evaluate, generally it is 2 monthly basis, and then surgery plus minus IORT. Now, metastatic disease can be synchronous one and be metachronous one. The synchronous, where liver only and or lung only is affected, where another one is abdominal or peritoneal or metastatic to other sites. Now, liver only and or lung only involvement, that can be two types. One is resectable and unresectable. In the resectable cases, there are few ways that are generally followed. One is stage colectomy with lung or liver resection and or local therapy, or we can start with Folfox therapy itself. Then we can go for stage colectomy and resection of metastatic disease, or we can start with colectomy itself and then go for chemotherapy, and after that stage resection of the meats. Now, for the another one is unresectable one. If the disease is unresectable and liver and the lung is only involved, then we start with systemic therapy, Folfox, Folfiri, or Capios. If imminent risk of obstruction or bleeding or perforation is there, then we only start colon resection at the very first second, or we will wait for re-evaluation, 2 monthly re-evaluation to check the resectability and go accordingly. Now, coming to metachronous one, it can be resectable one and unresectable. This resectable one, metachronous disease, can be of two types. One is where we haven't given chemotherapy previously, or we have given previously chemotherapy. In those cases where we haven't tried with previous chemotherapy, there we can go for two types, two way. In one way we can find that resection and or local therapy are followed by Folfox or Capios. And in other one way, if we want, we can go for neoadjuvant chemotherapy for 2 to 3 months. Then we can go for resection and a local therapy, followed by Folfox or Capios. If we have given previously chemotherapy, then in that case, another two way we can follow, one or the other, that is resection and a local therapy, followed by observation of systemic therapy plus minus biologic therapy. Another one is that we can start with neoadjuvant chemotherapy, then resection, followed by Folfox or Capios. Now, this metachronous one, if it is unresectable, then we consider whether there is a previous exposure to chemotherapy before 12 months or within the 12 months. If before 12 months there is a previous history of chemotherapy, then we will go for systemic therapy. If there is previous chemotherapy within 12 months, then we can start with Folfiri or irinotecan plus minus bevacizumab or cetuximab, and then reevaluate every 2 months for resectability and go accordingly. Now, after all this, we another one I am missing. That is the first one where I have talked about the non-metastatic tumor. resectability and everything. After that, where we go for adjuvant therapy. So there are some guidelines where in NCCN guidelines recently they have said that if the tumor is TIS, T1N0N0 or T2N0N0 or T3, T4, N0, N0, only observation can suffice. If it is T3, N0, N0, then we can go for observation or we can go for chemotherapy where capecitabine for 6 months or 5-fluorouracil and leucovorin combination for 6 months we can try. If it is T3N0N0 where there is high risk for systemic recurrence or T4N0N0, in that case, FOLFOX 6 months or Capiox for 3 months or as such observation can, and after that observation can suffice. In case of T1, 3 to 3 lesions, in one where low risk of stage 3 disease is there Capiox for 3 months or FOLFOX for 3 to 6 months can be tried. And T4, N1 to N2 or any T with N2 where high risk of stage 3 disease is there Capiox for 3 to 6 months or FOLFOX 6 months or capecitabine for 6 months or along with 5-fluorouracil or leucovorin for 6 months can be tried. So all this adjuvant chemotherapy is done after resection of the mass itself, and then staging, and then accordingly we go for chemotherapy. Now coming to the follow-up part, management without follow-up is basically useless. So we have to follow up the patient, and we have to find what is the stage, what is the condition of the patient. Now, for the stage 1 disease, colonoscopy at 1 year after the surgery is generally done. But if the disease during the presentation is the advanced one, then within 1 year we can go for colonoscopy. Not advanced one, in that case we can repeat the colonoscopy in 3 years and then every 5 years. Now, stage 2 and 3 diseases, we have to check the patient with its history along with physical examination every 3 to 6 months for 2 years, and then every 6 months for a total of 5 years. Now, next is stage 4, where history and physical examination is the same, like the stage 3, where 3 to 6 months for 2 years, and then every 6 months for a total of 5 years is checked. But all these cases, we will go for checking of CEA levels. If we find that there is a serial CEA elevation, then we have to take care of the patient by checking the physical examination. We have to take colonoscopy. Along with that, chest or abdominal or pelvic CT with contrast. If we find any positive findings, it is well known. If we find negative findings, then we have to consider PET-CT scan, and we have to evaluate the patient for 3 months. The consideration of PET-CT scan totally depends on the status of the patient, and while finding the serial CEA elevation, we have to consider the condition of the patient, and accordingly we have to decide whether PET-CT scan is required or not. Now, with this, the follow after this follow, my management part concludes, but I will go for a little bit discussion on the preparation of further surgery and post-operative condition of the surgery also that comes in the case of colonic surgeries. So when considering the preparation for the surgery, bowel cleansing plays a vital role, but this in consideration with the advantages during the operative period we face, the bowel cleansing plays a vital role, like intraoperative ability to perform colonoscopy or handling of the gut or absence of pre-anastomotic stool load helps in doing the anastomosis properly. Though recent studies have failed to show any kind of help in regard to the infection rates and leak prevention, they have said that bowel cleansing doesn't play a vital role in preventing the infection or prevention of leaks. Now, antibiotic prophylaxis. Large gut is full of anaerobic and aerobic bacteria. So, preemptively, prophylactically, we can give some antibiotics in the form of piperacillin, tazobactam, single dose or single drug, or two drug regimen like second or third generation cephalosporin with anaerobic coverage by metronidazole, or three drug regimen like coamoxiclav, metronidazole, or anion glycosides. Now, urinary catheters and stains, as far as they are concerned, in case of colonic operations, mainly localized over the lower part of the gut, it helps to detect the urinary catheter. If we place the stains, it has been seen, though it doesn't play a vital role in all these operations. And NG tube placement requires, it is considered when there is a chance of when the patient presents with obstruction or something like that, then NG tube plays a vital role. And marking of ostomy sites, generally before doing these kind of operations, it helps us to plan and decision making and preemptive pain management in these conditions. Sometimes epidural pain, epidural access sometimes done to manage the pains. And transfusion, as far as transfusion is concerned, whenever we check the patient preoperatively, if required, we go for transfusion. Otherwise, regularly it is not required as such. Now, post-operative management, as far as concerned, epidural pain management, as I said earlier, early mobilization, regular spirometry to decrease the morbidity of the patient, avoidance of tubes and drains as early as feasible to decrease the chances of infection, early resumption of oral intake after proper assessment of the abdomen, after checking whether there is IBS development of IBS or not, then we can go for early resumption of oral intake. And incision wound to be checked regularly for duration, hematoma, medicines. Adjuvant chemotherapy generally started after 3 to 4 weeks after the surgery. And as far as surgery, along with that, as far as surgery is concerned, surgery is never without complications. So all these patients can land up with fever, infection, chest infections as generalized complications, and sometimes there may be some abdominal complications itself, like IES development, development of tensions of the wound, anastomosis breakdown, and leading to peritonitis. Then all these conditions develop, we have to manage all these conditions accordingly. If development of peritonitis, then re-exploration, and if required in that case, stoma formation, and again re-exploration to close the stoma. All these steps come afterwards. So this is altogether my discussion on that.
There should have been one slide on ERAS. ERAS is, have you have anything about ERAS? Any concept of ERAS?
Sir,
Enhanced recovery after surgery.
recovery after surgery.
What is that?
So where we take care of the patient post-operatively, and
It starts with pre-op. ERAS starts with pre-op. Proper counseling of the patient, no bowel preparation. Okay. Then
oral carbohydrate
and no drain during surgery,
no drain.
and the post-op early ambulation, early internal feed, and early discharge from the hospital. So this ERAS protocol is applied to the CA colon surgery also. Dr. Bhattacharya, you can have some discussion on the management part. He has covered well. He's gone out. Yeah. Dr. Bhattacharya.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, now I am audible. It was a very nice description of the detailed management of colonic cancer. Okay, nice to hear that. Okay, now coming on to one point. Now, if you discover during colonoscopy examination a nodule on the colon, now how do you proceed for that? How do proceed for that?
Nodule on the colon. Yes. 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 Nodule on the colon.
polyp. You have discovered a polyp on colonoscopy examination. What should be your next step? How do you excise the polyp, and what should be the subsequent things you would follow?
So excision of that part of the colon and with in block dissection.
No. It's a polyp.
So this is the
So it's a polyp. It's either a peduncular polyp, sessile polyp.
Yes.
Okay. So point is, once you have a polyp, we consider there is a pre-malignant lesion, and that polyp has to be tackled. So the best option is what? Tackling that with colonoscopy.
colonoscopy.
Yes. So particularly if it is a
So,
peduncular polyp,
What is the procedures you would follow in this situation?
Yeah.
A brief technical part, and what should be your pathological part, and then what would you do if something comes to be positive in terms of cancer?
so if it is the first choice should be a colonoscopy polypectomy and submit histology examination. This polyp may be just a polyp with adenomatous component, or there might be some dysplasia, or there may be some malignant change. Okay, so polyp with adenoma with dysplasia, nothing else need to be done. If there is a malignant change, what is important pathologically? You need more information if there is a neoplastic change in the polyp itself. What
Have
is
you
it?
heard of some pathological classification
Yes.
termed as Haggett's classification? Have you heard of that?
Yes, sir.
So the management will vary. The management will vary depending on that. So this can be a malignant change confined to the polyp itself. It can involve the stalk. It can invade up to the base of the stalk. So confined to the polyp itself and the stalk, there is a role for observation. You will observe by CA and regular colonoscopy. Okay, you said you are doing a resection with 5 centimeter margin.
Yes.
But in a patient of CA-CCAM, we are doing a hemicolectomy. Why?
The vessel feeding the
Yes.
primary artery
So-
distribution.
So this hemicolectomy is based on the arterial distribution. So if you go 5 centimeters, there may be probably the hostility. That's why this standard description has gone to the one resection is by margin and another by vascular trade. You have talked about that. So that is important. Why doing a standard hemicolectomy means we want a well vascularized segment of colon. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. Can I leave now? I have to reach the
Dr.
hospital.
Bhattacharya.